The galaxy trembled the day humanity broke its chains. For centuries, the United Galactic Accord had looked upon Earth with condescension, labeling humans as primitive, reckless, and volatile, a species to be controlled rather than collaborated with. The Accord's bureaucratic overlords thought they had tamed humanity by restricting their technological growth, forcing treaties, and exploiting Earth's natural resources in exchange for scraps of galactic trade. Humanity endured it all, bending under the weight of oppression but never breaking. Until that day. It began with a single distress signal, faint and desperate, emanating from the mining colonies on Proxima Beta. The Accord's flagship, Lumina Prime, intercepted the message first. The audio was garbled, but the fear in the speaker's voice was unmistakable. "They're here. Accord troops, slaughtering us. We begged for better conditions, and this is their answer. Someone, anyone, help us." The message sparked a wildfire. It spread across Earth's networks, igniting a fury that had been simmering for decades. Humanity had always been resourceful, resilient, and dangerously underestimated. But now, with billions connected through a shared outrage, they became something far more lethal, a unified force. On board the Lumina Prime, Commander Rickson, a veteran of countless galactic skirmishes, watched in disbelief as human ships began to mobilize. They were mismatched, retrofitted freighters and orbital platforms turned war machines. Yet they moved with a precision that was unsettling. "Primitive species," he muttered under his breath, but the knot tightening in his gut told a different story. In the asteroid belt beyond Mars, the first confrontation unfolded. Accord vessels descended to quash the rebellion, confident in their technological superiority. But humanity had learned to adapt, to use the galaxy's arrogance against it. Hidden among the asteroid fields were human strike teams, armed with experimental pulse weapons scavenged from black market deals and stolen Accord blueprints. As the Accord fleet advanced, humanity struck with a ferocity no one had anticipated. Asteroids exploded into shrapnel, shredding the Accord's shields. Human fighters emerged from the debris, their engines roaring like thunder, weaving through the chaos with a recklessness born of desperation and resolve. The Accord captain ordered a retreat, but it was too late. A single human ship, its hull blackened and scarred, rammed directly into the flagship's core. The explosion lit up the void, a defiant beacon to the galaxy. Back on Earth, the news spread faster than light. Humanity had drawn first blood, and they weren't stopping. Factories repurposed overnight to churn out weapons and warships. Scientists worked tirelessly to reverse engineer Accord technology. What humanity lacked in resources, they made up for with ingenuity and sheer determination. In a darkened command room deep beneath Earth's surface, General Alara Vaz stood before a flickering hologram of the galaxy. "They wanted to break us," she said, her voice cold and resolute. "Instead, they've unleashed us. And we will make them regret it." Humanity's message to the galaxy was clear: no species would forget the day humanity finally snapped. It wasn't just a war for survival anymore, it was a war for vengeance. The Accord underestimated the storm they had unleashed. What they thought would be a swift suppression turned into a relentless uprising, spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. News of humanity's defiance reached the farthest colonies, inspiring other oppressed species to rise up. The Alliance had kept many in line through fear, but humans, reckless, unpredictable humans, had proven fear could be overcome. And now, the galaxy was watching. Humanity's fleets were still outmatched in sheer power, but their strategy was terrifyingly effective. They knew they couldn't win by fighting conventionally. Instead, they turned to guerrilla tactics, striking key supply lines and vanishing before the Accord could retaliate. Entire orbital stations were hijacked, their defense systems reprogrammed to attack Accord ships. Mining drones became makeshift bombers, detonating deep inside enemy lines. But the most devastating weapon in humanity's arsenal wasn't technology, it was their resolve. On the planet Karsus 3, Accord forces surrounded a human-led rebel base, cutting off all escape routes. When the ultimatum to surrender came, the humans didn't even hesitate. They detonated their own facility, taking the entire Accord battalion with them. It was the first of many such acts, each one sending a chilling message. Humanity would rather die on their feet than live on their knees. The Accord's Council convened in a state of panic. Commander Rickson stood before the assembly, his once proud demeanor now shaken. "These humans," he said, voice heavy with disbelief, "they don't fight for territory or wealth. They fight because they refuse to bow. We've pushed them too far." But the council, bloated with arrogance, refused to see the truth. They authorized a full-scale invasion of Earth, deploying their largest fleets and deadliest weapons. The skies above Earth darkened as massive Accord dreadnoughts loomed, their energy cannons primed to turn the planet into ash. On the ground, humanity braced for the final stand. Cities were evacuated, every able-bodied person conscripted into the defense effort. From underground bunkers, engineers and scientists coordinated with military leaders, deploying experimental rail guns and EMP devices. Satellites were reprogrammed to function as orbital defense platforms, firing devastating bursts of energy into the advancing fleets. In the midst of the chaos, General Ilara Voss delivered a broadcast to the entire planet, her face resolute and unyielding. "We've faced extinction before," she said, her voice echoing across the airwaves. "From the plague to the asteroid to our own mistakes, we've survived it all. And now, the galaxy thinks they can end us? Let them come. Let them see what happens when you push humanity too far." As the Accord fleets descended, they were met with a resistance unlike anything they had prepared for. Human forces fought with a combination of precision and chaos, their strategies unpredictable and devastating. Suicide runs crippled the Accord's most advanced ships, while coordinated ground strikes sabotaged their supply chains. But the true turning point came when Earth unveiled its secret weapon. In the depths of the asteroid belt, hidden from prying eyes, humanity had been working on a massive warship, the Erebus. It was a hulking monstrosity, bristling with stolen Accord tech and powered by a fusion core unlike anything seen before. When the Erebus emerged, it was more than just a ship, it was a symbol of defiance. It carved through the Accord fleets with surgical precision, its experimental weaponry obliterating even the largest dreadnoughts. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity not only survived but began to turn the tide of war. For the first time, the Accord knew fear. And humanity knew hope. The war had reached its boiling point. The Accord, once unchallenged rulers of the galaxy, now found themselves retreating in disarray. Their once invincible fleets were scattered, their supply lines severed, and their strongholds falling one by one. Humanity, the species they had deemed too primitive, had become their greatest threat. But humanity wasn't content with survival. Earth's leaders knew that as long as the Accord existed, the threat would never truly be over. The decision was made: humanity would take the fight to the Accord's core worlds. It was a bold and almost suicidal plan, but boldness had always been humanity's strongest trait. The Erebus led the charge, flanked by a ragtag fleet of human ships and vessels from allied species who had joined the rebellion. Together, they formed an unlikely coalition, a patchwork armada united by a shared desire for freedom. As they approached the Accord's central system, the scale of the task before them became clear. The Accord's homeworld, Dracthan Prime, was surrounded by a massive defense grid, with orbital cannons capable of vaporizing entire fleets. General Ilara Voss stood aboard the Erebus, addressing her crew. "This isn't just about humanity anymore," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. "Every species that's been crushed under the Accord's rule is counting on us. If we fail here, the galaxy falls back into darkness. But if we succeed, we prove that even the mightiest empires can fall." The battle that followed was nothing short of apocalyptic. The Accord's defenses unleashed a relentless barrage, their cannons lighting up the void like 1,000 dying stars. Ships were torn apart in fiery explosions, their debris scattering into the endless expanse. But humanity pressed on, weaving through the chaos with impossible precision. The Erebus became the center of the assault, its experimental shielding absorbing blow after blow. Inside, the crew worked tirelessly, rerouting power and launching counterattacks with deadly efficiency. Meanwhile, smaller human ships slipped through the cracks in the Accord's defenses, targeting critical infrastructure and disabling key systems. But the turning point came when the Erebus reached the Accord's Central Command Station, a massive orbital platform housing the Council itself. The station was heavily fortified, its outer layers bristling with turrets and missile batteries. As the Erebus closed in, it was met with a wall of firepower, its shields flickering under the strain. Inside the ship, the tension was palpable. Elara knew they couldn't withstand the assault much longer. Turning to her crew, she made the hardest decision of her life. "Set the core to overload," she ordered. "If we can't take the station, we'll make sure they can't use it either." The crew worked frantically, initiating the countdown to the Erebus's self-destruction. As the ship hurtled toward the station, its weaponry unleashed one final, devastating barrage, carving a path through the defenses. The Erebus collided with the station in a blinding explosion, its fusion core detonating with the force of a small star. The blast rippled through the Accord's fleet, disabling their remaining ships and leaving their forces in disarray. On the surface of Dracthan Prime, the Council's stronghold was thrown into chaos. For the first time, the galaxy's most powerful rulers felt vulnerable. The loss of the Erebus was a devastating blow, but it was not in vain. Humanity's allies seized the opportunity, launching a full-scale assault on the Accord's remaining forces. Within days, the Accord's empire crumbled, its once mighty fleets reduced to scattered remnants. In the aftermath, the galaxy stood on the brink of a new era. Humanity, once seen as the galaxy's underdog, had become its liberator. The cost had been immense, but the victory was undeniable. As the dust settled, Elara's final message was broadcast across the stars, her voice a testament to humanity's resilience. "We are not conquerors," she said. "We are not tyrants. We fought because we believed in a galaxy where no one has to kneel. And now, it's up to all of us to build that future, together." And so, the day humanity snapped became the day the galaxy changed forever. The Accord's reign was over, and a new chapter had begun, one forged in fire and written in the indomitable spirit of humanity. In the wake of the Accord's collapse, the galaxy was a shattered mosaic of hope and uncertainty. Dracthan Prime, once a symbol of absolute power, now lay in ruins. Smoke and ash choked its skies, while the remnants of the Council's palace stood as a haunting reminder of the Empire's downfall. Across the galaxy, oppressed species celebrated their freedom, but the scars of war ran deep, and the task of rebuilding loomed heavy over all. Humanity found itself at the center of this fragile new order. Despite their victory, the cost had been staggering. Earth's fleets were battered, its colonies stretched thin, and the heroic sacrifices of leaders like General Elara Vos had left a void that no one could easily fill. Yet humanity's resolve remained unbroken. With the same tenacity that had won the war, they turned their focus to healing the galaxy they had helped to free. A coalition of liberated worlds convened on a neutral moon, a once-forgotten rock now serving as the cradle of a new galactic council. Representatives from countless species gathered, their voices a symphony of languages and ideas. At the head of this assembly stood Ambassador Marcus Keen, chosen to represent humanity's interests. Keen's presence was a statement in itself. Humanity would not dominate this council as the Accord had. Instead, they would guide it, ensuring no species would suffer as they had. "Our strength was forged in unity," Keen declared, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "In the darkest hours, we stood together, not as conquerors, but as allies. Let us not forget that this victory was not ours alone. It belongs to every species that dared to rise, to every soul that chose freedom over fear." The creation of the new council was a monumental step forward, but the galaxy's wounds would not heal overnight. Entire planets bore the scars of Accord occupation, their ecosystems ravaged and their people struggling to reclaim their identities. Humanity took the lead in these efforts, dispatching teams of engineers, scientists, and medics to aid in reconstruction. In doing so, they earned a respect that no empire could command, a respect born of compassion and sacrifice. Yet, not all remnants of the Accord faded into obscurity. In the shadows of the galaxy, rogue fleets and scattered warlords clung to their fractured power. They viewed humanity not as liberators, but as a threat to their survival. These insurgents launched sporadic attacks on liberated worlds, their hatred fueled by desperation. One such attack came on the quiet farming colony of Varan 4, where settlers had begun to rebuild their lives. Without warning, an Accord warlord descended on the colony, their forces laying waste to the fragile community. But humanity had learned from the past. The response was swift and decisive. A joint fleet of humans and their allies engaged the warlord's forces, driving them back in a battle that solidified the new council's resolve. As the galaxy struggled to find its footing, humanity's role evolved. They became not just warriors, but mediators and protectors. They shared their technology and knowledge, lifting up species that had been left broken by the Accord's reign. For the first time, the galaxy began to feel like a place of possibility rather than oppression. Years later, a monument was erected on Dracthan Prime, at the very site where the Accord's palace once stood. It depicted a human hand and an alien claw clasped together, surrounded by the names of those who had fallen in the fight for freedom. Beneath it, a simple inscription read, "In unity, we found strength. In sacrifice, we found hope." For humanity, the day they snapped was not just the end of their oppression. It was the beginning of a legacy that would echo across the stars for generations to come. While the scars of war could never truly fade, they became a reminder of what was possible when even the most unlikely stood together against the impossible. The galaxy, once fractured by fear, now faced a future bound by unity and hope.